Morning, Tom.
Hey, Charles.
How are you?
Good. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. Hey, can you see if you can display your screen?
Yes. Share.
Mm. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this webinar, The Secrets to a Great Website. I'm Charles Henson with Nashville Computer, and today we have Tom Malesic with EZMarketing. Tom, welcome to the webinar. Thanks for being on
Yeah,
with.
thanks for having me, Charles.
Cool. So tell us, what are the top secrets to having a great website? How do you improve it? And what do people need to look for when they're looking at their website? Things change all the time. SEO is constantly changing. Google's changing their algorithms, and so with that, what do people need to look for and have in building out their website? Or if they've got an old site, what do they need to think about moving forward?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, and we're going to go into a lot of the details. If you look at it from a high-level overview, a lot of times, small business owners look at their site and they're almost embarrassed to let anybody see it. I'll say, oh, what's your web address? They're like, oh, no, Tom, don't go look at it because it's horrible. Um, so, one of the first things is that you have a site that you love from a design standpoint, and then really from a content standpoint, and then from search engine marketing, and then, or at the end of the day, I mean, you have this because you want to get some great result out of it. And we just need to be able to track and measure and say, is your website working? Whether you think it's attractive or you think it's horrible, at the end of the day, it has to accomplish that end marketing result that you're looking for.
Yeah, I totally agree. If it's not driving customers to your site and they're not coming to you and calling you, then you definitely need to be modifying it to make sure that it has a good call to action and that it speaks to the person that's finding you, and
Exactly.
making it know that, hey, I want to do business with this kind of company.
Yeah, it's a lot of credibility building.
It is actually the first impression, and you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
No, you don't. Your mother told you that a long time ago.
Well, cool. Well, Tom, let's get into it.
All right, sounds great. My slide progress here. So as Charles said, my name is Tom Malesic, and I'm the president and CEO of EZMarketing. We are a digital marketing firm, which means we build websites, we do SEO, how do you get ranked on Google? We buy Google ads, Facebook marketing, really anything that has to do with how do we drive traffic and revenue from your website. We're certainly let's jump right in and talk about the website. So I said a little bit on this as we started talking at the beginning, Charles, but the big question at the beginning is really, are you proud of your website, or do you just want to crawl under a rock and say, oh my goodness, please don't look at my website, it's just embarrassing? And people feel this way because a lot of times business owners don't take the time to really update the look and feel of their website. And if you go back, Charles, if you think of your site 10 years ago and what that looked like and what it looks like today, the world of graphic design online has really advanced. So now you can do a lot more cool things that you just couldn't do before from a visual standpoint. But when we really dig into it, there are some main steps that you have to do to make sure that you build a really great website. And the first one is planning. So just like, when you build a house, you have some kind of blueprint. You wouldn't think of building a house without having an architect really put everything together. And that's really the same case with your website. It really all starts with that site map. In other words, what are the pages that we're going to have on your website? Next, it's the plan of what do you want it to accomplish at the end of the day. So, Charles, you had said, hey, listen, we've got to drive sales. We've got to get customers to buy from you. So in many cases, people want to actually sell something or increase sales. Sometimes you're looking to generate a lead. So you're not, like for you, Charles, you're not closing a deal off of the website where an e-commerce site would literally close the deal, but you want to generate a lead. And then for some people, if you take some like architectural firms or engineering firms, that so much of their business is through referrals, and it's really building that nice brand image. Maybe you're educating people, and in many cases, it's just a validation. So we want to make sure that when somebody goes to the site, they go, "Oh, good, this is a real business." My friend who said to give them a call must have known what they're talking about. This looks good to me. So you really want to figure out at the beginning, what do you want to accomplish, because that's going to impact how we're going to build the site at the end of the day. So if you can answer these three questions, which is who you are, what's the problem you solve, and what do you want me to do? So let's just equate this to Nashville Computers. Who you are, Nashville Computers, a reputable computer support firm. What's the problem you solve? The problem you solve is you just get rid of everybody's IT problems. And then what do you want me to do? You want people to contact you. So, and obviously we can get into a lot more detail, as you build your site of those three questions, but the person visiting your site ought to be able to recognize that immediately when they're going through it. Does that make sense, Charles?
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. One of the things that we saw was we had our site, we had a lot of individual people calling us, wanting us to help them with their home computers. And that's not really
Yeah,
our business. So we're more business to business. So we had to modify our site and start tweaking it to where when a homeowner went there, a home user went there, they were like, oh, this is more for a business. And that way we could speak to those businesses. So then when the business owners and those office managers came to our website, they're like, oh, this is not just a residential computer company, this is a business to business company. So those are key aspects that I look at, in our website to make sure that we're getting the phone to ring with the right prospects, the right leads are calling us.
exactly. Exactly. And that's really what this section is meant to really accomplish. We don't want to have people that aren't potentially your customer get in touch with you. It's okay if they visit your site. We just don't want them to call you, because now we're just wasting your time.
Exactly.
Yeah, so many businesses really struggle with this concept of getting rid of the traffic that's not relevant and really focusing on the traffic that is. And it's really comes to, put yourself in your customer's shoes, right? We really want the customer to read your copy and look at your images and know immediately what you do and how you help them. And it's hard to make that motivating if the content is kind of written all about you and not about the problems you solve and the customers you help. So really, we want you to spend a lot of time really putting yourself in the customer's shoes so that you can be really relatable to them, that they read it and go, this is the company for me, I'm giving them a call right now. So that's the planning phase. But what's going to make a great website? And I really think of this in terms of four areas. It's design, content, usability, and then at the end of the day, is it really getting results for you? So from a design standpoint, this is really around how it looks. And Charles, you even brought this up. You said you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And statistically, that's actually really true, and it's true of the design of the site. So 75% of people will make a judgment about that company's credibility just based on the way the website actually looks. So if you have an old, outdated website or it doesn't look professional, people are going to think badly of you. We judge a book by its cover, even though mom told us not to, but that's exactly how it works. So you really want to make sure that you have a design that you like, and we'll show you some examples here of designs as well. Then I want you to keep the design interesting. Sometimes people make things super cluttered, and that's challenging. We can use different graphics or photos to break things up. Getting high quality photography is also important. So sometimes we'll use stock photography. We try to stay away from the ones that really look like stock photography. You could even have infographics, just like, if you think about this, the 75% is, I could have just put that in the text, but that popped out, and that's essentially a design element that makes that slide interesting. You're going to do the same thing with your website. And then video content is a great way too to kind of get that visual element into it. And I know Charles, you actually have a video on your homepage, which is great. So let's take a look at a couple. I'm going to show you 3 different designs. So my first one is Armor Vet. And from a design standpoint, I just want to point out some different elements. What they are, right? So they're your leading choice for veterinary ophthalmology, right? So they're not your general vet. They're a dog and cat ophthalmologist. So from a visual standpoint, we have the little doggies and cats like sticking out from the nav bar, which is interesting. A great feel good picture that kind of spans the whole width of the page. Then we could have just not had these little paws here, but the paws add a little graphical element. Even the call to actions have some kind of graphical element to them, right? With make an appointment, prescription refill, learn more. So if you look through the design, it's not just a picture text, right? That things are spread out. We've got some headlines here. Does that make sense, Charles? Kind of some of those graphical elements that really bring this to life.
Yeah, it's eye catching. You know exactly what they do. You can look at their page and tell what they do. You don't have to, it takes the guesswork out.
Exactly. Exactly. We want you to know immediately what this business does. And for a vet practice, that's fairly simple. But from a manufacturing process or something that's a little more strongly B2B, like creative packaging solutions, a little harder to do, right? So, nice headline here, really cool impact image of one of the packaging machines that you can purchase from them to make your packaging easier in a manufacturing process, or you're putting things in boxes. This is actually a robot that will lift things from one area to another, which is pretty cool. But let's look at their logo. So their logo really has three, maybe 4 colors too, if you count black as a color. But we're matching the color scheme, and even the picture that we chose here blends in with the colors. So sometimes it's a matter of taking colors and using them over and over again. So even like this background has some kind of repeated depth to it that really follows some of this. You could almost think of this like it's an infographic, right? So we've got some little animation that happens with it too. Using little icons, so instead of just having the word integration as a headline, adding some graphical elements pulls this whole site together so that this feels like a cohesive design.
I really like
Then,
the boxes in the background that match as you scroll.
yeah,
Yeah, that's really cool.
yeah, it's really cool. And sometimes it's all of the subtle things. So this is Chickies Creek hemp tea. So iced tea as a product category is very popular. And I know, Charles, you like your tea sweet, and you're gonna love some of this stuff. So this is hemp tea, which is slightly different, right? So we're using some of the hemp seed. So it's not the what's it called? The it's not HBD, HTCs or whatever it is that gets you high. This is, you're not gonna have a hallucination drinking this tea. But from a design standpoint, I really want you to take a look at these leaves coming out of the side, the way the bottles kind of pop off the page. And the name of the business is Chickies Creek, and the image behind this is actually Chickies Creek. Even just the fluidity of it appears like the leaves are actually falling down, like you're right there in the stream. Then the other design elements, we could have just put a little boxy graphic here, but using the soft circles, repeating them, with the natural colors and flavors, putting a woodboard texture behind this, old-fashioned kind of pictures, to give you kind of the story, because what we're trying to do is get our story out. So this is a new product from a company that's been around for a long time.
Was it THC? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I can never remember what that is, but yes,
Yeah, it's
you got it.
with
Um,
CBD and everything else being popular.
CBD, there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, really interesting. It's a different kind of product, and we couldn't just build just kind of a cookie cutter site. We really wanted to give you that more exclusive kind of feel to it, right? So this isn't the cheap sweet tea that you're going to buy at the convenience store. This is something that's much more of a specialty product.
Yep, and it does. The page makes you feel like you're by the stream looking at it, you know, and the leaves are falling. That's really interesting perspective of how you brought that together. And I love the old photos of like their
Yeah,
history of where they started. We've got a lot of old
exactly.
photos in our office, and I'd never thought about using like old photos of like the old days of when we started back in 1988, as part of telling our story. I've just never thought of that. So that aspect right there is very interesting to me because I see those old buildings. I'm like, wow, they've got a lot of history there, and they've been in business for many many years, and it really does help tell their story.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So three different sites, three different completely look and feels to them. And that's the piece that's important when you're putting together the design of your site, that when you look at the site, you say, this feels like me. This feels like something my customer will relate to, that they'll look at this visually and say, this is where I need to be. So that's design. Now let's talk about content. So content is any of the text, images, videos that you're going to have on your site. And we really want you to think of this in terms of creating kind of one idea per section, whether that's a page or section on your site, so that we can use, headings to really break up the key points. And I love this slide because, Charles, which one's easier to read?
The
They're
one on the
saying
right,
the same thing.
yeah.
Yeah, but the one that says, make text scannable versus don't do this, right?
Well,
So if you use,
when you look at it,
go
it
ahead, Charles.
looks like a lot more words on the left. And
Yeah,
people will look at that and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna read all that," and then they move on. Whereas the one on the right, it's like it's bullet points, and bullet points are so easy for you to just to skim and look at versus a paragraph.
exactly. Now there are sometimes we want to use paragraphs, but we don't want to use long paragraphs without headings, and we don't want to write really long, complex sentences and use semicolons, um, because it's harder for the internet user to read that. So sometimes you're just highlighting an important word, right? So on this slide, the most important word is scannable, right? And you know that because it's the biggest word on the page. And oftentimes we're doing that with the website so that we're making you notice what we want you to notice. The other thing is to really avoid jargon that people don't understand. So if your customer is a very technical customer, then we want to use words that are maybe a little more sophisticated because that's how they think of it. But if we're not selling to that audience, we're selling to a consumer. Think of it like the newspaper. What a newspaper is written for, what is it, like a fifth or sixth grade reading level, and we really want to maintain that kind of same avoidance of jargon when we write website copy. So, all right.
That's a great idea because a lot of times, even us as tech people, we think differently. The words that we use, the stuff that we write down and we talk to our clients
Mhm.
about, sometimes we have to remember that they are not in the tech industry and they don't know these words, especially when it comes to acronyms. Those are,
Oh, exactly.
yeah, so it's
Yeah,
always
the
best to spell that out.
right. So if you use it in the words that they would use, not in the words that you would use.
Yes.
A big part of writing website copy, and I think people miss this very frequently, is that you're really writing a sales letter on every page, right? We're trying to write persuasive copy, and to do that, it has to be about them and not about you. So if you focus on what does that mean and not necessarily what it is. So Charles, we're going to use you as an example here on this. So um, let's just take your website from a copy standpoint because you're doing a great job with this. Right. So when you get to Charles's site, right, it's managed IT services company reliably serving Nashville businesses since 1988. But your real headline is this, right? Have you outgrown your current IT support company, tired of dealing with slow computers consultants that nickel and dime you for everything they do, right? That sentence is completely focused on the customer and their pain point and their frustration, right? You're even using words like tired of dealing with, like that's what's going to really resonate with people. And even further down your page, right? Why choose us? This is a great sentence that you have in here, right? Because you're relating that you understand because you talk to them and you listen to them, right? So when talking to prospective new customers, we continually hear the following pain points: poor response time, nickel and diming, and lack of knowledge of your current IT engineers. Right? Then you're supporting it visually, right, with a video that you can watch, and we wait till way down on the page to talk about Nashville Computer, right? But most businesses, they'll start with this. Like this will be the first thing on their page. So you've done a great job at leaving the me stuff to the end, and putting in the stuff that is really focused on the customer and what their pains and frustrations are.
Thanks, Tom. And we actually got a lot of those keywords and pains from listening to new prospects calling in and what their pain points were. So listening
Exactly.
to the conversations and as we met with them, we understand that, that, I mean, we wanted it to be exactly like a prospect that has called us. We wanted it to speak to the
Mhm.
next prospect that came to our site.
Exactly. Right. So that shows that you understand what the customer is looking for. So that when your ideal customer shows up and they read this copy, they go, "Oh, finally, an IT company that gets me."
Yes.
Right. Versus just reading the blah blah blah. We were founded in 1988, but like the boring copy that you typically read. Right? It's torturous. Same kind of thing here on our site, um, right? So we'll actually have a little. Let me hit refresh here. We have a little revolver here of marketing doesn't have to be difficult. We make it easy, right? Headline: frustrated by your web design company. So using different headlines across the board and images, right? Little block areas showing results which people like, right? So real similar kind of concept. So great job, Charles. All right. So we're writing content for people, and then we're optimizing it for Google, right? If it doesn't resonate with people, then even if we get lots of people there, it's not going to make any difference. So let's actually go back to your site, Charles. So if you think about what keywords people are going to type in, right? They're going to type in IT services. They're going to type in Nashville. They're going to type in IT support. They're going to type in computer consultants, right? So you literally have your top four keywords right in this headline, which is something that Google just absolutely loves. And even further down, now you get this added benefit that your business name is literally a keyword that someone would type in. So very few people have the wonderful advantage you have of a business name. Um, so so great job on just the optimization piece of it of, how do we make sure that your site is optimized, but we're writing the content first and then coming back and figuring out how we can get those keywords in.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's been a lot of work in progress and, tweaking and testing different things, but it definitely does pay off, especially for
Exactly.
Google in that top ranking.
Right. So then the other thing, so here, show you an example here on the screen. This isn't you. This is a roofing company that we work with. Um, from an SEO standpoint, from a search engine optimization standpoint, there's me using jargon at you, right? We can control what comes up in Google. So if you did a Google search for roofing services, maybe in York or Hagerstown, um, we can control the title tags, and we can also control this description. So if we're trying to place for roofing services, we want to use the word roofing services. And even so, in the URL example, we're we're trying to place for commercial roofing, right? So the website address literally just needs to say commercial roofing. So just kind of little tricks, but they're content tricks. And then we're looking at it on the page. So just like we looked at on your site, kind of where are they, right? So we're having headlines of roofing, roofing's underlined, here. And then even in the pictures, we need to tell Google what every picture is so we can label the picture specialty roofing or commercial roof or residential roofing. And that's just a piece of kind of basic search engine optimization to that.
So when you go to Google and you type in a name, like if you were to go to Google in Nashville and type in my name, you see my pictures pop up along with other Charles Henson's. But if you type in Nashville Computer, you see like our logo and different pages that are different pictures that we've used in the past and stuff like that.
Yes,
Because of the naming, that makes it more relevant. Is that what you're saying? Don't just leave it as a bunch of characters and numbers. Uh,
correct.
.jpeg or whatever type file it is. Change the name of the picture to be related to some search term in your industry.
Correct. So you would name the picture something related to what the picture is, but if you can get a keyword in there, all the better. And then when we do the programming, we literally put a little piece of code. It's called an image alt tag, and we're gonna label that, because what happens there is Google reads that, but also if somebody had a visual impairment and was using a screen reader, they could read what that picture is.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. So it kind of has two benefits. We do it for Google, but we also do it from an ADA compliance standpoint.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the next thing is usability, right? We've all been to sites that you go to, and they're just horrible. Like, you cannot get around, you can't find anything, you're insanely frustrated. Um, so the big thing here is, like, we don't want to make the user overthink anything. So we need them to be able to look at your navigation choice and immediately know, like, what potentially could be behind that page, because people get unfocused. You're looking at stuff on your phone and something else happens. So if we can make it easier, we want to do that. So the more simple we can make that navigation, you've probably all been to sites that you go to a site and you have navigation, and then you click on that and all the navigation completely changes and you can't even figure out how to get back. Um, or that they have so much navigation on the page, like, that you can't even figure out what to click on because you can't read it all. So it becomes just kind of this visual clutter. So generally we try to limit it to around 7 items in the navigation, and we avoid really complex drop down menus. So in other words, that you would mouse over it and then it would mouse to the side, and then sometimes it mouses to the side again. So the more complicated it is, the worse it becomes. And I'm going to show you some examples of that too then. We also want to have really clear call to action buttons, right? So if it's give us a call, download a form, watch this video, even just having your phone number at the top of the page. So many businesses miss this just basic fundamental point of, give me a call. So let me show you an example of this. So this is Ballman Machinery, and I've got a little before and after. So the before is what their site looked like before we rebuilt it. And you can see just the excessive level of navigation, right? They literally have top navigation, left navigation, right side navigation. And believe it or not, most of those, like when you clicked on most of those, they went to the exact same thing. So then when we took over, we really simplified everything, so that you weren't completely confused right off the beginning of what should I do.
I've seen several that felt like you were playing a maze game where you had to click, highlight, make sure you drop your mouse exactly straight down and over, and if you moved your mouse the wrong way, the whole menu would go away. It's very frustrating.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So like your site, real nice, simple navigation. Our site, real simple navigation. In fact, we're kind of looking at, like, there are only 3 things I want you to do. I'll give you other things up top, but these are my secondary choices. I want you to focus on the services, right? Same with Chickies Creek. Real nice, clean, easy navigation. All right. Charles, this is I put a picture of your new Bugatti that you showed me the other day on here for you, so
Yeah,
I thought you'd
right.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
Um,
in my budget
Google.
anytime soon.
Okay. Well, maybe you'll win one. Who knows?
Who knows?
Uh, so Google has really started to look at how fast your website loads, and they've now started to use it as a ranking factor for the last couple years. So we want to make sure that we don't have big bloated images that take too long to load. Um, so that's a factor that we want you to think about, as well as mobile friendly, right? Charles, you're constantly on your phone doing Google searches, and what we find statistically across all of our customers is that more than half of the Google searches that are done on our client sites are done on a mobile device. So this is important, one, from a usability standpoint, but it's also important from a Google standpoint, because Google decided, hey, listen, if you're not willing to build your site so that it looks good on a mobile phone, we're just going to penalize you. So rather than having two separate algorithms, a desktop version and a mobile version, Google just said, listen, everything's all about mobile, and we assume that it'll look fine on a desktop version. So it's become more and more critical today, and in fact, very few web developers at this point will even build a website that isn't mobile friendly. It's also called responsive design. So that is a big deal these days. So here's an example of a customer that we have. So it's a real estate education center, and when they've been a customer for a while, probably, I don't know, probably 10 years. But when this last time when we redesigned their site, they said, listen, we don't really care about the desktop. We'll assume that's going to look good on desktop. All we want to do is we want to talk about mobile first, and our client must have said mobile first 100 times because it was the most important thing to her. So, on the screen you can see what their full version looks like, and then what it looks like on a phone. It's really all about browse our courses, whether it's going to take their classes in Pennsylvania or in Maryland.
Yeah, for us, it's
So
very important to have that um, mobile friendly, because if the internet's
yeah,
down and they can't use their computer, then they're going to switch over to their phone and do a search for IT consulting, IT services, and they're going to be doing it from their phone. So think about that. If you're in manufacturing and somebody's in the warehouse and they're like, we have to get this equipment repaired or fixed, and maybe they're out on the plant floor, they grab their mobile phone, they start doing a search. Depends on your business, depends on what you're
exactly.
doing, but you definitely want to have it mobile friendly.
Exactly. Well, and the younger your demographic audience is, the more likely it is they don't even have a computer. They do everything on their phone. So, if you're looking at that consumer market and that younger demographic consumer market, um, it's your incidences of searches done on mobile is going to be exponentially higher. So super important. All right, so let's talk about results, right? At the end of the day, if you don't get results out of your website, you know, it doesn't matter at all. So when we look at what should you measure from a result, some basic things would be, how much traffic are you getting from Google, or how much direct traffic are you driving there? That's just really a basic kind of metric that you can look at. Um, Oftentimes we'll look at, where do you rank on Google, right, Charles? So we could take your top 20, 50 keywords that we're trying to rank for, and we could track, where are you now? Are you spot number 2, or are you on page 300, right? So that's something that we can track, because there's this correlation that says, if I have page 1 rankings for the keywords that are important to me, I will, by nature of how that works, get more traffic. So one kind of leads to the other. And then you can say, well, if more of my qualified customer comes to the site, they're going to fill out more forms, they're going to pick up the phone and call me, and I'm going to make more sales. So we know at the end of the day, the bottom 3 there, the filling out forms, picking up the phone and calling you and making sales, are what's most important. But we could look at some leading indicator metrics of search engine rankings and website traffic. And obviously there are hundreds of things that you can look at, but these are the top 5 that we really pay attention to. Those are probably ones you look at as well, Charles.
Yeah, absolutely. We get form fills on a weekly basis. We track all of our phone calls. We actually have separate phone numbers for the websites, So when
Hmm.
somebody comes to our website, it's a different phone number than our main number, so we can track where they came from.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a big difference. In many cases, we put call tracking on, so you can literally listen to the inbound calls. Sometimes it might be torturous because you're listening to an employee who handled that inbound call poorly, but it also gives you a good customer service opportunity to train on that. But
Well,
you'll know, uh,
yeah.
you'll
I was
you'll
going
be
to
able to know what traffic source it comes from, which is pretty cool.
it
So
is.
the software can actually tell you that this came from a Google ad or a Google organic search or came from Facebook or whatever else you're doing. It can really dig into uh, phone call tracking specifically by lead source. So kind of a recap here of, so what makes a great website? It's going to start with that detailed plan in the sitemap. We want a design that looks really good and professional. We want good optimized content that solves customers' problems. We want the site navigation and the whole site to be simple and easy to use, and we want you to really track and measure your results. Um, so what we thought we'd do too is if we have any brave souls that would like to volunteer and say, here's my website, give me a live review, we would love to do that. How, how brave are the people on the call, Charles? So what do you think? Any takers? All right, well, we'll move on. Does anybody have any questions, or Charles, is there anything that I didn't cover that you're like, yeah, but Tom, what about this?
So if you want a website review, you can pop it in the chat real quick. Otherwise, if you're Tom, if they don't want to do it publicly, but they'd love to see the report, um, and if you guys do have questions, you can throw it in the chat, and we'll be glad to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, how do they get this for their own private viewing? Um,
Right. So we put together something just for your clients. So if you go to ezmarketing.com/Nashville, that's a page that you can give us your information, and we will customize a report for you. So we'll look at your website, we'll do an evaluation of how your search engine marketing overall is going. The report is generally 16 pages plus, so we're really going to go into a lot of detail. We're going to look at your overall health of your website from Google standpoint. We're going to look at all the on-page SEO. We're going to take a look at how many other websites link to your site, and if Google thinks they're reputable or Google thinks you shouldn't have those people link to you. We're going to look at the speed of your site. We're going to check it for your mobile friendliness, and we'll even tell you what keywords that we think you're ranking for right now. So we're happy to do that for all your customers, Charles. We appreciate the opportunity to present and just to help some of your other customers out.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely get the word out. We'll share this with everyone, and I want to make sure even if people could not attend today, that they can take advantage of this, because seeing that SEO report and knowing that we are relevant when people type in our keywords is huge in our business. If it wasn't for Google search optimization, um, we would not be getting the number of calls that we get for for prospects calling in and wanting that service. And so we highly depend on Google and the other search engines to bring visitors to us so that we can sell them or go out and talk to them about doing IT services for them. And then if it wasn't for that, then we would have to do a whole lot of other marketing, which we do, but it's one big funnel that's helping us bring new customers in, whereas it's not us having to go out and do a lot of work to get new customers. So we're not doing a lot of marketing outbound. This is a inbound marketing piece that's been really huge for our business. So I
Yeah.
really encourage everybody to take advantage of having the SEO audit to see how do you rank today. I mean, if you don't know what your baseline is today, how do you know if you need to improve it? And a lot of people, they'll create a website, and this is what I've seen. They create a website and then they think they're done. They think they're finished. That's it. I don't have to do anything else to this website. And Google looks at it and
Exactly.
says, wow, that's a great site. Then they come back 2 weeks later and nothing's changed. Then they come back 2 weeks later, nothing's changed. And then Google stops looking at you. Then then they see your competition. Oh, they're making changes. They're adding blogs. They're adding different pages. They're updating content. And that's where you start losing those rankings. So if you don't know what your baseline is today, then I would highly recommend taking this SEO audit and seeing where do you stand today in Google's world on the internet, and what can you do to make that better?
Exactly, because it just doesn't happen by itself, right? It's not Kevin Costner's Field of Dreams. If you build it, they
Mhm.
will come. Like it's a lot of work and effort to get Google to like you better than they like your competitors, so that the people searching for you truly can find you. Because it's one thing to do marketing where you're looking for them, right? Which would be like a direct mail piece. They're not necessarily looking for you, but the letter comes across their desk and they're like, "Oh yeah, I have a problem with this." It's completely different when they know they have a problem and they're looking for you, right? So they go to Google and they type in computer support Nashville. You come up because they already have the problem. So they're already further through their decision making process of, we absolutely have to make a change with our IT guy.
Yeah, let's face it.
So the better you have,
Well, I
go
was
ahead.
going to say, just let's face it. The yellow pages are no longer there, and so the trusty old, open the yellow pages and find the companies in there that are advertising isn't there. And
Hmm.
so you had a small area to find what you're looking for. You open it up, you find that category, and you've got anywhere from 5 to 50 businesses in there that had their ads. Whereas the internet, when you
Yeah.
type something into Google, if your site is not relevant, the chances of them
Yeah.
finding you is very slim.
Right. It's millions of competitors you're now going against.
Yes.
You're right. Even though in reality there aren't that many, but in the world of Google, there are millions of web pages that match pretty much anything you type in,
Well, I'm sure if you typed
which
in
is
Nashville
crazy.
computer, there'd be 13 million um, listings that show up, even though
Absolutely.
they're not all my competition, but they all have either of those keywords in there. And so what I have to do is make sure that mine is more relevant than those 13 million.
Exactly. And actually, Charles, I just did the search. I hate to break into you. You have 62.9 million results come up when you type in Nashville computer,
Wow, that's even worse.
because it looks at the word Nashville and it looks at the word computer,
Right.
right? So it's, yeah, very, very challenging.
It is. So that's why we are constantly adding new content. We're adding blogs, our newsletters link back to our site. So we have relevant and newer content coming in all the time. And then I'm looking at those keywords, where people are looking on the site, what they're clicking on, what they got to get there. Then we even ask on the phone, how did you find us and what were the keywords that you used? Because I want to hear it
Hmm.
from the human being, what they were doing, not just look at the Google Analytics on the back end.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Charles. I appreciate the chat today, and hopefully we can help some of your customers and give them a free evaluation of their site and their search engine marketing.
Absolutely. We're always trying to add value to what we do and what we're bringing to the table. And, we used to do websites years ago. We got out of it and we stopped doing web hosting. And you and I are friends and I've known you for years. And I thought, you know what, we had a couple of clients asking about, uh, websites and Google rankings and different things. And I thought, let me just ask you to do a webinar with me, and I'm going to get this out to all of my clients and make sure that they can watch it and take advantage of your free SEO audit.
Yeah, happy to help.
All right. Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate your time.
You bet. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye bye.